What if the life you are waiting for is already waiting for the version of you that stops asking for permission? Because the moment you stop living like an ordinary participant in your life, something inside you begins to reorganize reality from within. If you're understanding this, don't just listen, observe yourself right now. Notice where you still act from hesitation. Then, for the next few minutes today, consciously shift into the version of you that moves without asking for permission, even slightly. That's where the change begins. The idea that chosen is a mindset rather than a literal external selection means that nothing outside of you is actually assigning you a role in life. Instead, your experience is shaped by how you define yourself internally and how consistently you hold that definition. When someone identifies as not ready, not enough, or still waiting, they begin to interpret life through that limitation. Opportunities may exist, but they are filtered through hesitation, doubt, and self-doubt, which reduces action and weakens momentum. In contrast, when someone adopts the mindset of being chosen, they are not claiming superiority or special permission from the universe, but rather stepping into a self-concept where they assume alignment with their desire is already in motion. This shift changes behavior subtly but powerfully. A person who sees themselves as chosen stops negotiating with fear as often. They begin to act with more certainty, not because circumstances changed, but because their internal identity did. The brain then starts to reinforce this identity through selective attention, noticing possibilities instead of obstacles. This is not mystical. It is psychological repetition shaping perception. The mind naturally seeks evidence that matches its dominant self-image. Over time, this assumed identity becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar begins to feel true. Once it feels true, action becomes easier, decisions become clearer, and resistance decreases. The chosen state is therefore not about waiting for external validation, but about internally sustaining a version of self that consistently moves as if life is already responding to them. When identity is shaped by assumption rather than circumstances, it means your external world does not define who you are in real time. Instead, the meaning you repeatedly assign to yourself becomes the foundation of your behavior and perception. Circumstances are always temporary and incomplete, but assumption is continuous. So when someone bases their identity on what is currently happening, failure, delay, confusion, they lock themselves into reacting instead of creating. But when they shift into assumption, they begin to operate from an inner decision that is not dependent on proof. Assumption works because the mind does not distinguish sharply between repeated imagined states and lived experience when emotion and attention are involved. If you consistently assume you are becoming, receiving, or aligning with something greater, your mind starts organizing thoughts, interpretations, and actions around that assumption. It begins subtly filtering reality in a way that supports the inner narrative you hold most often. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means not letting reality be the authority over your identity. Instead of saying, "I will believe it when I see it," assumption flips the direction. I will begin to see it because I consistently hold it as true internally. This creates a shift in behavior. You start acting slightly earlier, deciding slightly faster, hesitating slightly less. Over time, these small adjustments accumulate. The identity formed through assumption becomes stronger than the identity formed through circumstance because it is reinforced daily from within. Eventually, what you assume about yourself becomes the lens through which you automatically interpret everything you experience. Inner state determining outer expression means that what you consistently feel and hold within yourself naturally shapes how you behave, speak, and interpret the world around you. Your external life is not randomly disconnected from your internal condition. It is constantly being filtered through it. When the inner state is uncertain, hesitant, or fearful, even neutral situations can feel like obstacles. But when the inner state is calm, certain, and aligned, the same situations are approached differently, with more clarity and direction. This happens because your inner state acts like a lens. It doesn't just influence emotions, it influences perception itself. Two people can face the same opportunity, but their inner state will determine whether they see possibility or limitation. One may see risk and withdraw, while the other sees potential and engages. The difference is not the situation, but the internal condition interpreting it. Expression follows this inner condition naturally. You don't have to consciously force confidence or clarity. When the inner state is stable, your tone of voice, posture, decisions, and timing begin to reflect that stability without effort. This is why trying to change only external behavior without changing inner state often feels inconsistent. It is not aligned at the root. Over time, repeated inner states become habitual, and habits form personality. So if someone repeatedly returns to a state of certainty or grounded expectation, their outward expression begins to match that internal pattern. The external world then responds differently, not because reality itself changed instantly, but because the person interacting with it is no longer operating from the same inner frequency as before. When acting as if, you are not pretending in a superficial sense, but temporarily adopting a mental and emotional position that aligns with the outcome you desire. This works because the subconscious mind learns primarily through repetition, emotional imprinting, and lived internal experience rather than logical argument. When you consistently act from a chosen state, even briefly, you begin to create familiarity with that identity. And familiarity is what the mind eventually accepts as real. At first it may feel artificial because your current self-concept is still dominant. But every time you step into the as-if state, you are introducing a new pattern into your system. Even small actions, thinking differently for a moment, responding with slightly more certainty, imagining outcomes as already unfolding serve as signals to the subconscious that this is a possible way of being. These signals accumulate over time. The key is emotional consistency, not perfection. The mind does not require you to fully believe at the start. It only requires repeated exposure to a stable pattern. As you continue acting from that state, your reactions begin to shift automatically. What once required effort starts becoming natural because the nervous system has adapted to the repeated experience. Eventually, the boundary between acting as if and being begins to blur. This is where identity change happens. You stop consciously trying to behave differently because the new pattern has become the default response. The subconscious no longer treats it as a temporary performance but as a familiar identity, and from that point, your behavior, decisions, and expectations begin to align effortlessly with that internalized state. Emotional certainty does not mean having proof or absolute external confirmation. It means internally settling into a feeling of this is how it is becoming for me without constantly debating it in the mind.
You get to face a lot of young man. You got a long journey ahead of you because you're going to find out that while your dad did a lot of to you, you're going to have to make it on your own. Because this world we live in is tough. It's tough. It will beat you down. The world in the life that we live in is the ultimate competitor. The world's tough. The world's tough. It will try to take you out. It will find your weakness and it will just hammer you. So it's time to get back to work. Get back to work. Stop hearing yourself talk. Get off the podcast. Don't be on social media too much. Cut out all the fucking noise. Get back to the fucking mental lab, because that's where the knowledge came from. You need to get to a point in your life where there's nothing can hurt you because you know exactly who you are. You've faced your demons. You were able to hear all your past traumas. You were able to listen to them. You're able to say, okay, now I can now talk to people about what I went through. I'm no longer embarrassed. I'm no longer ashamed. Being ashamed is one of the biggest things that kill people nowadays. In their minds, kill them from moving forward. I'm ashamed of myself. Don't ever be ashamed of anything you've done in your life. Face it, fix it, make it better. Everything I need is in my mental lab. Everything. Because I'm in constant study of myself. And I know what needs to be conquered because I'm constantly going through what I don't like, what I'm not comfortable with. I know, and only I can fix these problems because I have to face these problems.
Unchosen suffering is going to happen, right? So the only thing that you can do is have some chosen suffering to prepare for it.
It's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can practice for the unchosen suffering, is have chosen suffering. Do something that sucks every day. I'm not trying to send a message of run 200 miles, be the baddest motherfucker in the world, but be tough. You better have a part about you that's tough, a part about you that can break down situations and get better. And break down situations very quickly within some trauma in your life, some devastation in your life, because it's gonna come. The devastation, the trauma is gonna come, and you can't allow that to become a Jersey barrier. It can't be a Jersey barrier. It has to be something that you can maneuver through very quickly and move forward. That takes a lot of toughness. A lot of people, when you die, they figure out why you died. They figure out how you died in the autopsy. But we never do a live autopsy to figure out why we're dying while we are alive. And I was dying. I was living every day, but I was really dead. And so I figured it out. And once I figured it out, I was able to reborn. I was able to be reborn. You must take this knowledge that you learn from all this shit is knowledge. So I'm just trying to give people that strength to go in the archives of your life. Because while you're probably f***ed up, it's probably something happened to you in your life. Go through the archives, dig it up, study it, and then use it for yourself. That's the main purpose for me right now. You need to be better here, you need to be better here, you need to overcome this, overcome that. And people need to have purpose to get up. They need purpose to perform. You need to get to a point in your life where there's nothing on the docket. There's no 5K, there's no, I'm gonna get into school to be this or that, and still perform to the highest level. Because what people don't get is one day that thing's gonna come up. And if you're not constantly performing without purpose, you're not gonna be ready when the time comes. It's this magical thing, purpose, that we're all looking for. But what's funny about it all is that we need these things to perform, but we don't take a second to realize the purpose is always there. The purpose never leaves us, because the very purpose is you. You are always the purpose. There may be another purpose, like being a SEAL or going to college or whatever, but the main purpose in life is you. So if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to do something, you don't care enough about yourself. And that's what you need to really research is, why am I not doing this for myself? Because that is the number one purpose in life, is to better oneself. So that's the only purpose I fucking need. So the reason I get up every day, even though there's no race or there's no school, there's nothing in front of me, is because I have pride in myself. Every day. I was born David Goggins. David Goggins wasn't good enough. He was a scared, bullied, abused kid who struggled in life. And that kid, whenever something got tough, no matter how hard I trained, no matter how ready I was, whenever something got tough for me, David Goggins, the real David Goggins, would come out and he would quit. So I realized this over a period of time. So I had to build Goggins. And in that process, that's where I get better. I get better when I'm digging holes in the ground, when I'm waking up early knowing I don't have to do these things. That's where I get better.
So it's important to stay hungry.
It's important to stay hungry, but it's important more to stay humble within that hunger. So while you're hungry, a lot of people are hungry, but humility is everything.
What was that story about William Crawford, the janitor? Yeah.
So this guy won the Medal of Honor. So he won the Medal of Honor, and which is the highest award in the military. And this guy went to the Air Force Academy, and he was a janitor. And no one knew who the f this man was. He had the highest award in all the military for heroics. For heroics, saving lives, putting his life on the line, could have been killed. And he is now basically, cleaning shitters for young kids. And we can all imagine how that probably went. There's probably some, little bit of taunting here and there. And he just sat there and cleaned the shitter. So that's why he's in my trained humility part, because for this man to be at the level he was and have that kind of humility to go, I'm a Medal of Honor winner, but I'm gonna put that in my closet, and I'm gonna pick up my broom and dustpan, and I'm gonna pick up, this rag and clean this shit for these young men. That right there is amazing for me, man. That's where you grow. That's growth, huge growth. And also it shows that he was doing his job. He was a servant. He didn't look at himself any better than anybody else. The second you do that, you totally lost. You cannot look at yourself like people with me even. I always look at people. I know where you are. I know where, because I've been there. That's why I help so many people out. I've never been above you. I've always pretty much been beneath you, and that's where my knowledge came from. So I know how to reach those people who are in the dungeon, because I've been there so many times. You have to be your best self when you're least motivated. And that's the tricky part.
It's a lonely journey.
You have to have the truth to have a starting point. And your true self is found in that very uncomfortable zone.
They'll see where their world ends.
We all look for toughness.
Your ability to suffer.
We all want it.
Endure.
But we look for it in a comfortable environment. You will not find toughness in a comfortable environment. Those of you who are listening to this, you will not find it. The only way you find it is to drown yourself in a position where you're just out of sorts, where you can't swim and you're drowning. Where you're drowning. When you say, you know what, man? That. Once you come face to face with who you are, you have a starting point. It's in our head saying, you know what, man? Dude, you're not doing shit. You're wasting a bunch of percentage here. In this other 80% is suffering, pain, failure, self-doubt, darkness, and then a whole bunch of light. But to get to this light, you gotta go through all of this shit.
You're not succeeding. You're not achieving. It's because you're afraid to go in that dark place to find yourself. You're setting goals you know you can reach. And when you do that, that fear, that insecurity, that doubt, That's where you grow. You must always set goals that you think you cannot achieve. And in there you get better. When that alarm clock goes off at 4 or 5 in the morning, your mind says no. You just say, this is what we do. It's what we do now. Because to get to where you want to go, the amount of pain involved, the amount of mental pain, of how many times you're going to have to do something that you don't want to do to get to where you want to go. Every day, you must ask yourself, did I do enough? And then once you do this over and over and over again, it becomes like breathing. I don't want to live this lifestyle, but to get to the other side of this, I have to. So if you really want it, you realize what trying is and what trying is not.